Welcome, everybody, to your Week 18 Waiver Wire show, and I hope you are in a good mood today celebrating a fantasy championship. Welcome to Fantasy Football Today, presented by BetMGM. Make it legendary. Yes, we are going to go through Week 18 Waiver Wire. I don't know that we're going to look ahead to next year too much on this show, but we will throughout the rest of the week. What's up, Dave Richard?
We will throughout the rest of the 2026 year until we get to week 1 of 2026. So nothing to really worry about there. It's what we do during the off season. And you've got to be a diehard or a sicko in a week 18 fantasy championship to be watching us or listening to us right now. Thank you for that. Adam, good morning. I am here for the fantasy football runner-ups and fourth place finishers and losers in the fantasy playoffs, because I am with you guys, except I did win one league. That was pretty awesome. But other than that, lost a couple finals, including the podcast league to Jamie when he started Jake Tonjes and Malik Willis against me. If you had told me before that game that I would have lost because of those guys and maybe a little bit of Bijan Robinson, then I would have said you're crazy. But he did, and good for him, and good for Todd. He shares the team with Todd. I'm sure Todd is the brains of that operation.
Yes.
I am still coping with my close losses last week, because the teams that I lost with last week crushed this week. And so if I had just gotten 6 more points last week on 2 teams, I'd have more fantasy championships and more cash in my pocket. And it's this weird thing. I don't know if it happens to you. I don't know if it happens to our audience, but every year, and this happens to me a lot, I build great teams, make the playoffs in at least half my leagues, and then fantasy playoffs come, crazy stuff happens, and they fall apart. And I know that happens to like 5 out of 6 people in every single fantasy league, and you're playing tougher teams, blah, blah, blah. But it's this strange phenomenon that I'm going to end up having to study really hard during the offseason so that I'm best prepared to crush it in weeks 15 through 70. Oh, you've got the answer, I see.
No, yeah, the answer is luck. I mean, come on.
Maybe.
Who had Brock Purdy in their lineup? You know, I mean, Brock Purdy carried so many people to championships. We couldn't have forecasted that. In fact, the guy who won the FFT Open, Ryan Van Hoven, team name Laporta Body, he had Dak Prescott. He didn't draft Brock Purdy. He drafted Dak Prescott and Justin Fields, I think. And he had Brock and he had Dak Prescott. He went against your rankings, Jamie's rankings, Heath's rankings, and he started Purdy over Dak Prescott this week, and that is why he won the FFT Open. But
awesome.
I mean, look, like I said to you before the show, I played in about 11 leagues, I think, each of the last 2 years. And last year I won 4 of them. I had my best year ever. This year I won 1. And I actually thought I had a better year this year, you know, through the regular season than I did last year. I had a very good year, made a lot of playoffs.
All right.
I would have liked to make a little bit more. I had 2 teams that were just juggernauts. They both lost in the semifinals. But I told you about the 3rd place game that I played in that I didn't even realize I was playing it. I actually won it because of Bijan. And I would have crushed the 2 teams that played in the finals. You know, I'm looking at the scores. I scored 20 more points than both those teams, and I benched Burrow accidentally. So all I'm saying is, yeah, like that team was good enough to win. It just didn't happen. I'm not a worse player this year than I was last year when I won 4 times as many leagues. It just, a lot of it is luck. And I think I was going to ask you, in all sincerity, is there a better way to do fantasy playoffs? So one thing that I really want to do, I think I said it on the mailbag, is no head-to-head matchups in the playoffs until the championship. So round 1, you got your 2 highest scorers advance. You know, you got 2 teams on a bye, you have 4 teams playing, no head-to-head matchups, your 2 highest scoring teams advance. Same exact thing in round 2, your semifinals, no head-to-head matchups, your 2 highest scoring teams advance, and then head-to-head in the finals. But you could even make a case for total points. You can make a case for 2-week championships, although I would never want to play in week 18. So no offense to the people who are listening to today's show, but a lot of it is luck, and you do have to ask yourself, is there a better way to do it? And I'll float out one other idea as Jamie joins us. Good morning, Jamie. Is I did not like this format. This was my least favorite fantasy baseball format. But a lot of people play in roto leagues where it's just total points from start to finish. There are no playoffs. And you could, in theory, do that. I hate that because it eliminates teams very early. They have no chance and they stop playing. But I love fantasy football, win or lose, whatever. I don't care. I don't play for a lot of money. But if you are thinking about a more fair way to crown a champion than just have these 1 week matchups where anything can happen, I think it's worthy of discussion.
But then why would you have a bunch of 1 week matchups from week 1 through 14?
You don't have to.
And then change it. And some teams do double, what do you call it when you play a head-to-head matchup and if you finish in the top half in your league in points scored?
Apex scoring. So you get a win if you win your head-to-head. You get a win if you finish in the top half.
Right. So we do that in one of the dynasty leagues that I'm in. And that makes it okay. So that way, if you just have a little bit of bad luck, you run into the top scoring team in the league, but you're still one of the top 5-6 scoring teams, then yeah, you go ahead and you get another win out of it. That's okay too. But I think the way that you decide, part of the fun of fantasy is the head-to-head matchup. So, here I am in the fantasy championship. It's me and Andrew, who I'm sharing a team with, against Jamie and Todd. Hey, Jamie. Congrats, by the way. It's fun. Like, I'm sure Jamie's I'm sure you love it that you beat me with Malik Willis and Jake Tonjes. And again, I'm not upset about it. Is that the second or third time I've brought it up? I don't know. But I would have certainly relished it for at least a couple of days, knowing that I beat Jamie. So,
well, is that the point that you lost, or is that the topic that we're talking about here?
The topic is what's the best way to crown a fantasy championship? And
no, I understand that.
But head to head
is the impetus of the conversation because of random players that won leagues?
I don't know if I think Adam's really pointing more to the luck factor than anything.
Dave is sort of saying that he's got to figure out a way to not, fall victim to having
no choking in the fantasy playoffs. I choke just like
I was saying, like, there's nothing you can do about it. It's 1 week. It's head to head. You obviously had a good team. It's just kind of in the hands of the fantasy gods, is my opinion.
Well, obviously you didn't choke. You put your best players on your fantasy team in the lineup. So if they didn't perform to the expectations that you had for them, which I'm sure happened in a few cases, same thing with our team. It's not like our team was perfect across the board, nor do I think any fantasy team every week is perfect across the board.
Really hard to
do that. So you keep referencing Malik Willis and Jake Tonjes, I assume. What if that was Jordan Love and we had not had a good tight end since we lost Tucker Kraft anyway? So we were playing tight end.
Let's say Tucker Kraft stayed healthy and Tucker Kraft was still your tight end.
Right.
Well, then in that case, I'd be pointing to you picking up James Conner and that you had the good luck charm.
But you wouldn't have the same feelings, I assume, if it was those players.
Well, I mean, listen, I think another reason why our team lost is because DJ Moore had 1 catch. Amon-Ra St. Brown had a down.
Right, but you're in a 14.
And we were in a big hole all year at running back. So you were in a hole all year at tight end. You found your way out of it. We did not have the same kind of luck at running back. We should have probably started Woody Marks, but it wouldn't have made a difference in the final score.
We made a series of trades that in for the most part did not help us. Didn't really hurt us because of the players we traded away, because we traded Amari and Hampton. I forget the trades we made, but we acquired throughout the season because we had a lot of good running back depth. We acquired Malik Neighbors, who got hurt immediately. We acquired Justin Jefferson, who stunk immediately. So we had a flawed team for a good portion of the season after getting off to, I think, like a 6-1 start. I think just in the case of what happens this time of season, including week 18 for those who still play, is you're going to have scenarios where players get hurt. I keep seeing a lot of championships that end in week 16 because of what happened with the Chiefs and what happened with, Brock Bowers and, some of these things. Okay. If these guys were hurt in week 6, what's the difference?
Yeah, I agree.
So to complain about late season injuries, or in the case of, look, the Chiefs clearly are shutting down guys because of their scenario. That's going to happen because of certain situations, whether it's week 16, 17, 18, or week 5, 6, 7. You don't get the shutting down aspect of it, but obviously injuries are a part of what we deal with here. And so, to Dave, to your point about, DJ Moore had a bad week 18 or week 17, and Amon-Ra St. Brown didn't have a great game. I mean, he was playing a tough matchup, and DJ Moore got bad game script for him because Luther Bird and Colston Loveland took off in that matchup. So
that's not bad game script.
I wouldn't call that bad game script.
Yeah.
When
your team scores 38 points and you're
not the right wording there, but
no,
Yeah.
man, listen, like I completely understand like how it works out. And I think the one other takeaway could be just make sure you're doing the best you can with your lineup. Make the best choices. And I told people this going into week 17, try not to change anything. And I don't think you changed a single thing with how you play fantasy football going into week 17. It's not like you started changing your philosophies on who to start and who to sit. Your logic for starting Jake Tonjes was excellent. So just going along with that and just staying consistent all year long, I think that's probably the best thing you can do this time of year. And that's what I did. That's the other thing. And sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't.
I think though in the case like this is a weird week because we had 5 games being played before Sunday. So you knew in a lot of cases what you're either chasing, what you needed, and that probably altered a few things. I said this to both of you. You know, we went into Saturday with a decent hole because 2 of our players sucked that we count on, and not a safe quarterback situation or a safe tight end situation where I almost, which you would have been laughing at me for years, I almost played Taysom Hill at quarterback.
I know.
And Jake Tonges.
You would have won anyway, though. You would have won.
No.
Yeah.
You would
have won.
You would have won.
We won by more than 33 points.
You did.
You won by 38 and change.
All right, listen, to getting off of this specific matchup, you know, Dave was the points winner in the league. He had the most points. He was the number 1 seed. So I think, you know, as Dan pointed out, which I didn't do in the Dynasty League, Dan said a good commissioner would reward someone for first place. This podcast league is not for money. But you could also do that. You could give someone the points title. You can give them some money, you know, so that at least rewards someone before the postseason even starts. There are things you could do if you want to make fantasy a little bit less about the randomness of the last 3 weeks. Speaking of the last 3 weeks, Bijan Robinson averaged 33 fantasy points per game in the last 3 weeks in the fantasy playoffs. We might have to put him in the MVP discussion, even though he was, you know, a super high pick. Last year, Jahmyr Gibbs averaged 32.6 in the fantasy playoffs. So Bijan was a little bit better than that.
Was he the best 101 that we could have taken this year?
Those between him and Chase and Barkley were the 3 candidates. Those
right.
Are the 3 top players.
And we knew Barkley wasn't going to be that guy. So, and Chase went through that whole spell this year without with Burrow.
Oh yeah, no, Bijan was the best.
I think Bijan was the best. And Bijan had a better points per game average than Jamar.
Yeah, and so the last thing, and I just gotta go to break and then we'll start our waiver wire show. Here's what I keep thinking about, right? Who were the 2 quarterbacks that carried people in their fantasy championships? Brock Purdy and Drake May, right? They had the best.
Well, Trevor Lawrence.
And Malik.
Lawrence had some pretty
week 17 specifically, but and Malik Willis, obviously. But which teams had the easiest strength of schedule? It was the 49ers and the Patriots. That is something I want to look into here. Because that we knew that going into the year that the Patriots and the Niners had the best schedules in football, and they rewarded fantasy managers for sure.
I was also thinking about this in terms of scheduling for the Rams in particular, not winning the NFC West. They're going to now have a 3rd place schedule.
Yep,
that's a very good point.
And they are going to play their starters next week, and we will tell you what they're saying. Even though I'm not completely convinced on all of them, because if San Francisco wins on Saturday, the Rams will be the 6th seed, regardless of what happens in their game against Arizona. Okay, we'll be right back.
No, but I think there is still a scenario where they can get to 5 because of points.
I read this morning that they could only get to 5 if they win and Seattle wins.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry.
But Seattle plays Saturday. Yeah. All right. We'll be right back on Fantasy Football Today with our waiver wire show coming up next.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
Okay, Jamie, who are our top 3 waiver wire priorities for Fantasy Week 18?
I think you got to go Malik Davis at the top, just with the assumption that Javonte Williams is not playing at this point. So hopefully if that is the case, that Malik Davis is going to be the guy. And as we saw in the game against the Commanders, he was the guy with 20 carries for over 100 yards. So I'll put him first. I'll go Tyler Shuck second. He was great in the fantasy championship week for week 17. He's been great in the playoffs. 19 or more fantasy points in 6 of his last 7 games. Unfortunately, the one time he did not do that was against Atlanta, he's playing now, but I still think he's going to have an opportunity for a good game. And then Luther Burden, clearly, based on what he just showed us, assuming that he's healthy, just looks like a future star. And I saw, I've been gathering, and I know we'll show some of them today on CBS Sports Network. Maybe you're going to show them today on here. I'm not sure. But gathering all of the rankings for 2026, and that content will be on our site on cbssports.com starting next week. But Jacob Gibbs was sort of feel like he was like filling it out a little bit. Is Luther Burden a top 10 wide receiver for 2026 already?
Yeah. Ooh. I thought that was a little hasty. I mean, Rome Odunze is not playing right now, we got to keep that in mind. But hey, look, it could happen. He's super talented. He's the quickest feet. The way he catches the ball and immediately cuts up field and makes guys miss. I think he might have the fastest, I don't even know how to say it, breaks or feet or whatever in the
lateral agility.
Yeah, right up there. Quick twitch, whatever you want to say. Yeah. Shuck, man, I would have felt a little bit better about Shuck before last night, but this Falcons defense is on fire right now. Man, they've held Jacoby Brissett to 12.6 points and Matthew Stafford to 16.8. But Shuck is also playing really, really well. All right, so Malik Davis at the Giants, Tyler Shuck at Atlanta, Luther Burden against Detroit. Dave, who are your top 3?
Davis and Burden are on my top 3. I have a tie. It's not really a tie. Jake Tongish is still a top 3 guy to add. He's available in 83% of leagues. If you can't get him, or if you're worried about Kittle playing in a very important game for the 49ers, then Michael Mayer would be the tight end to go get.
Okay. How about Colby Parkinson coming through last night?
I told you. I mean, it wasn't a huge game for him, but this happens all the time.
Yeah, it was cruel. All right, so Malik Davis is the prize.
He wasn't even the best Rams tight end.
It's true, yeah. Luther Burden is also, assuming he plays, we're loving him against Detroit.
The funny thing is, in a couple of leagues, not that one, because we had to make that decision. Or I guess maybe we would have. Yeah, no, that was one of the leagues. Ferguson was my backup plan in the leagues where if Kittle was going to play and I didn't have Kittle and Tongas.
Nice. All right. And just some quick winners. Shout out I already mentioned Ryan Van Hoven for winning the FFT Open. 288 people. He is the last man standing. Congratulations. Riding Brock Purdy to a win. Second place guy had Blake Corum in his lineup, so that's a tough pill to swallow. The difference was about 11 points, I think, in the scores. So he had a chance if Corum stayed healthy. In the podcast league, it's Jamie and Todd Rones defeating Dave and Andrew. You've heard about it. And in the podcast leftovers league, shout out to Cody Smith, whose team name was Kansas City. And at least they won something this year. Am I right? Cody Smith, congratulations. Big win for you.
I got 3 myself, unless you're done.
No, I am done. I just want to mention that in our podcast leftovers league, which is a super flex league, I was so fascinated by, oh no, never mind. I'm lying. I thought one team had like really bad quarterbacks and one team had really good quarterbacks, but whatever. Yeah, go ahead. Who won your leftovers leagues?
So that big round of applause, huge round of applause. Johnny Airport won.
No way.
Oh, wow.
Won the Super Leftover Leagues 1. And I got to change this for next year because I just was setting these up quickly, trying to get all these leagues organized. I did not do decimal scoring. Johnny beat me in the semifinals, 127 to 126 to advance to the championship. And then he easily won the championship. So that was Super Leftover League 1. I hope I say his name right. Matthew Feokovitz, the Fighting Feos. They won Leftover League 2 pretty easily. And then they were the top seed going into it. And then the third league was won by, I can't say his team name because it's not appropriate. Hopefully his name is on his team. Brad Kernett. He also was the 1 seed, won championship as well. So congratulations to Johnny Airport, to Matthew, and to Brad for winning the 3 Super Leftover Leagues.
Congratulations, and thanks to all of our listeners for being a part of all these leagues. It's pretty amazing. We've got no show on Thursday this week. We'll do starter sit on Friday. Every game that we preview, we'll take a look ahead to 2026 as well. Any thoughts on Rams? We'll save Rams-Falcons for later. We got to talk a little more waiver wire here. Here are your news and notes. So the Rams are going to play their starters, they said, even though I think you got to keep an eye on what happens on Saturday, because if the Niners win, the Rams, I think, are locked into the 6th seed. That's what I read. Correct me if I'm wrong. Justin Herbert's going to sit. Trey Lance is going to start for the Chargers. They're at Denver, and Denver has everything to play for. They're going for the 1 seed. So I don't think you're going to start Ladd McConkey or anybody.
Do you remember what Bo Nix did last year, week 18, when the other team had nothing to play for?
It was one of the reasons I avoided him in drafts. His numbers were very good before that, but inflated by his insane game against Chiefs backups. But I don't know that the Chargers are going that far with it. We'll see. But yeah, he went berserk. What else we got here? Geno Smith is almost certainly not going to play. It'll be probably Kenny Pickett against the Chiefs. Malik Willis has a shoulder injury. We don't know what the Packers have nothing to play for, right? They're locked into the 7. And we don't know who's going to be their quarterback at Minnesota. Could be J.J. McCarthy playing for the Vikings. We'll see against Green Bay. And Marcus Mariota likely out at Philadelphia. Running backs, got Javonte Williams and Blake Corum with injuries. Wide receiver, don't know about Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's day-to-day with a knee injury, and they've been eliminated.
So Dan Campbell said it's nothing that's a long-term concern, and if he's okay to play, he will play.
Yeah, okay.
Right now we're ranking Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Okay. Luther Burden left with a quad injury. Rashid Shaheed has a concussion. They play Saturday in that big game at San Francisco. Jalen Waddle came back with the injured ribs. That's the kind of guy, that's the kind of situation where you wouldn't be shocked to see Jalen Waddle miss the game. And the same with Marvin Harrison Jr., who hurt his other foot in week 17 and may not play at the Rams. And by the way, I'm pretty sure that while Marvin Harrison was playing, I'm pretty sure DJ Reed was actually shadowing Michael Wilson. I have to go back and look. What I did.
DJ Turner.
Yeah, sorry. DJ Turner was shadowing Michael Wilson. When they were both on the field, Harrison too. So I got to double check on that. But the plays that I actually did look for it, that's what was happening. Harold Fannin Jr. going to be questionable with a groin injury. Darnell Washington and Jatavion Sanders suffered long-term injuries. And the Bucs had a really rough week. Not only did they lose, not that it did matter though, actually, because if the Bucs and Panthers play Saturday, the winner of that game wins the division unless the Falcons beat the Saints. If the Falcons beat the Saints on Sunday, then Carolina wins the division regardless of whether they win or lose on Saturday.
It's such a stupid thing.
Yeah.
And the crazy part of this is if the Falcons had just beat the Jets, the lowly Jets, they would be in the driver's seat to win the division right now.
Wow. But unfortunately for the Bucs, one of their starting guards left with a concussion, and Hassan Reddick left with a concussion. Their starting edge, and Jamel Dean, one of their corners, left in the second half, and they have a short week. So they're super beat up going in this game against Carolina.
And Tristan Wirfs might not play, and the guard that got hurt was a backup guard. Backup guard Michael Jordan. That's something you don't usually hear very often, but that is what happened. And if all those guys are banged up, then I don't know how Tampa Bay.
Is he from North Carolina?
Becomes it.
I don't know. Heard stories about him. Cleveland has a couple of offensive line.
He got cut from his high school team.
Yeah, exactly. They're at Cincinnati. And well, we'll leave it at that. That's the big stuff. All right. Oh, before I move on, which teams are you concerned about resting starters?
I'm not ranking the Bills players very high. I think they're, with Josh Allen beat up and what their team has looked like, I think a week of rest would probably do them some good. So they could also beat the Jets with their backups anyway. So, like, I have Ray Davis ranked ahead of James Cook.
Okay. So Chargers, Bills,
Packers.
Packers.
Yeah.
I did not rank one Chargers starter.
I'm not sure if the Niners win on Saturday that the Rams starters play their full allotment.
Right.
Least,
Could
right?
be 3 quarters.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Right now I have Stafford ranked as my top quarterback, and he could go from number 1 to number 32.
Okay. All right. So it looks like we might hopefully get a decent amount of guys playing this week that we normally count on. And football fans, you got to bring your playoff energy to your pro football bets all season long. This Pro Football Boost Pack gives you 3 ways to boost your payout on a winning bet. Just log into your BetMGM account to receive your Boost Pack and then place any pro football bet and apply one of the tokens. Make sure to bet up to the minimum stake, odds, and legs specified on the token. If your boosted bet hits, you'll score a bigger payout. From opening kickoffs to game-winning drives, this Pro Football Boost Pack is your ticket to unforgettable moments this season. Don't wait on the sidelines. Join the action with BetMGM. Seeing right now that Riley Leonard is expected to start for the Colts.
Oh, that sucks.
And
by the way, the Patriots may pull their guys too because they'll be scoreboard watching, knowing that the Broncos are playing backups. So I saw a couple of Patriots beat writers suggest this, that they may start to pull their guys during the game too.
Broncos are going to be playing Chargers backups. And if the Broncos win, it eliminates the Patriots from the number 1 seed. And
They're locked into the 2.
Have already locked into the division. Yeah. The other thing is that I'm pretty sure.
Well, wait a minute. Can Jacksonville still catch them for the 2?
That's what I was about to ask you. Who's got the tiebreaker between New England and Jacksonville? If Jacksonville wins and New England loses, they're both 13-4.
Yeah, I think what at least the one writer I saw suggesting this is they'll be scoreboard watching, assuming that they're winning, and I think most people assume they'll beat the Dolphins. So if they're ahead, they'll start to pull guys.
I'm pretty sure. I wonder if the Raiders can tank anymore, because I think if the Raiders beat the Chiefs, which is very possible, and the Giants lose to the Cowboys, which they've done something like 12 straight times when Dak Prescott's played, I actually think the Giants will get the number 1 pick. So the Raiders tanked themselves into the number 1 pick last week. Will they tank even more? Will they sit Ashton Genty or something like that? We'll find out. All right, top 3 at each position. Jamie, who are the top 3 quarterbacks?
Well, Tyler Shuck would be 1. I think you just give him credit for what he's done, even in a tough matchup. Number 2 would be Bryce Young. Last time he faced the Bucs, he went for 21 fantasy points, and you just listed all the injuries that they're dealing with. It's like 8 quarterbacks in a row have scored at least 19 fantasy points against Tampa Bay. The one that did not do it over 20 points was Quinn Ewers last week, and he was like 19.7. So it should be a good opportunity for Bryce Young. And then the third guy for me would be Cam Ward. Not an easy matchup against Jacksonville. You wonder how that game will go from them. If they have a big lead, will they start to pull guys late in the fourth quarter? Cam Ward's had some, good performances of late, but 4 straight games of 2 touchdowns, 3 in a row of 19 fantasy points or more, 2 in a row where he's been over 20 fantasy points. So he's playing well. I don't think it will be a pretty game for him. But when you start to look at the guys who are in the range of quarterbacks that we talk about, I'm not going to Kenny Pickett or
no way.
The backup options that we're looking at. Well, I mean, look, Kenny Pickett's facing a bunch of backups for the Chiefs, but you get the point. Like, I'm not going to the second tier quarterbacks. I don't think Josh Johnson's worth trusting against the Eagles unless they're going to sit guys. So you kind of just go on the sliding scale of who's either playing well or avoiding some of these real crappy backup scenarios. So Trey Lance is not going to play well against the Broncos, for example. So I just think you look at, even in some tough matchups for Shuck and for Ward, they should still be able to cobble together enough stats that get you in that range. I would have said Malik Willis, potentially even in a tough matchup against the Vikings, but it's the Vikings and he's not most likely playing. So I don't think you want to trust that.
Trust CJ Stroud this week against the Colts?
So he's the one quote, I still did the shallow league guys.
Yeah.
And he did not have a good game against the Colts the first time around. And obviously Indianapolis's pass defense looked good last week against Trevor Lawrence, who did not throw a touchdown pass. But I think you give Stroud the benefit of the doubt. So none of these, Shuck is the only one I would consider as a borderline starter, just again, based on what he's been doing and how he's performing, even in a what's become a tough matchup against Atlanta. But Stroud, borderline starter. Young, more of a 2 QB guy. Cam Ward, certainly more of a 2 QB guy.
Okay.
None of these guys are slam dunks.
And Dave, top 3 running backs to get?
Malik Davis, 94% available. Doesn't look like Javonte Williams is going to play. We're going to need to keep an eye on that. But Malik Davis actually looked pretty good. And it's a good matchup against your Giants. Ja'Cory Crosby-Merritt is still out there in 37% of leagues. He would be somebody that I would be mildly interested in. I don't like the matchup. I don't like that he's going to end up sharing with 2 other running backs potentially, because Chris Rodriguez missed last week's game with an illness. He should be back this week, but he's the best of what's left. And then Audric Estime, 83% available, clear lead guy for the Saints last week. And I think he'll be the lead guy again this week against Atlanta.
Yeah, I'll give you two other names that I would take over a few of the guys Dave said. Dylan Sampson was the lead running back for the Browns, taking on the Bengals. Last time we saw that, it was an 8-catch game for him. And then most likely the Packers will sit Josh Jacobs if they're going to sit guys because of Jacobs battling this knee injury. Emmanuel Wilson, last time he played the Vikings, he had 28 carries for 107 yards and 2 touchdowns. And so even though there'll be a lot of backups, I think he could be in that flex range. So I don't love Estime against the Falcons personally. And with Krosky Merritt, if the Eagles are playing their guys like that, run defense is going to be too tough.
Yeah, the thing is with Sampson is that Sanders actually played more snaps than him. The way it started, Raheem Sanders had 6 of the first 8 running back carries, and Sampson had 1, and Travion Williams had 1. So they started the game as with Raheem Sanders as their guy. I guess he wasn't really delivering for them, and then they went to Dylan Sampson, who basically took over in the second half. But Raheem Sanders, they all pretty much ran the same amount of routes. Travion Williams was the third down back. Raheem Sanders led them in snaps, and he led them in routes run barely. But
yeah,
Sampson was not much of a factor at all until
Agreed. I also don't expect them to have the same game script that they had last week, which was playing with the lead. I think they're going to get blasted by the Bengals if the Bengals decide to play their guys. That's a team that they may decide to shut things down too. It wouldn't shock me either way. At this point, we're expecting them to play. But I think the Bengals offense shows up again, and the Browns offense is in usual Browns offense mode. So that's why I like Dylan Sampson.
Right. Remember how last week you wanted pieces of the 49ers offense and pieces of the Bears offense? Like you knew that game was going to be exciting. I don't want pieces of the Cleveland Browns offense. And to be honest, I don't want pieces of the Packers offense either if it's going to be Clayton Tune at quarterback. So I would be nervous about trusting any of the running backs from any team that's resting guys. So we've already talked about a lot of those teams. And then running backs on teams that are splitting 3 ways and don't score a lot of points, that just doesn't seem good to me.
Okay. Well, it's not a great waiver. There really aren't a ton of running back injuries.
No, all the more reason to make Malik Davis the number 1 guy.
Absolutely. Okay. Jamie, wide receivers.
So Burden is obviously the top guy to go get. And you mentioned him in the news notes. It sounds like he's going to play, according at least to the insiders. Parker Washington, back-to-back games with just, being the best guy for the Jaguars. And I know we had a lot of questions, understandably so, because what he did against Denver, how that game unfolded, Riley Moss and the missed tackles. It's 20 targets in the last 2 games, so clearly he's a guy that they're relying on heavily. And so we'll see if that changes. They want to get Brian Thomas going, who dealt with Sauce Gardner, but I still think you look at Parker Washington. And then after him, really, it's a crapshoot. I think, Tamari DK, he's due because this is every other week of scoring. So he's got 3 touchdowns in his last now 7 games, but every other game he scored a touchdown. So this will be the week that he scores. And he's got 10 PPR points or more in 4 of his last 6. So the floor is pretty safe, and the ceiling could be decent, even though he did not have a great game against Jacksonville the first time around. But again, we're on the every other week situation.
I loved the way Jalen McMillan looked last week, and I feel like he's the one that's going to end up replacing and has replaced Ibuka in that offense. And if the ball's going to go out quick and they need to get it in the hands of faster people, McMillan is one of those people. I like Washington better. I like Burden better. I would go Burden, Washington, McMillan as my top 3. And I got a weird feeling. Adam, hit the music for I Got a Feeling.
Oh, do I don't. There
it is. I got a feeling about Cooper Kupp, because that's another game that I think I'm going to want pieces of, especially for Seattle against that defense. Not going to be a priority for me to pick up Cooper Kupp, but if Burden's gone, Washington's gone, you're not feeling Jalen McMillan, I wonder if Cooper Kupp can get you a solid floor type game in PPR.
Yeah, there's another guy in that offense I'd rather have besides JSN.
Oh, which one? Barner?
Yeah.
It's a different position.
Yeah, so with Parker Washington, I wanted to mention he ran about 91% of the routes or something like that. It was way up from his previous 2 games. And he's had 7 games, Parker Washington, where he's had 89% route participation rate or better. And in 5 of those 7 games, we're looking at, I want to say 8 or more targets. So 7 or more targets. So basically, that was the big change. He turned into a full-time player. The week before, he ran like 60% of the routes. Right. That was huge. And if they're going to continue to use him that way, it's obvious that Trevor Lawrence likes him. He even said that he should have just made a better throw to Parker Washington in the end zone when Lawrence was intercepted in the end zone. So, yeah, it's exciting development there for Parker Washington. Dave, top tight ends.
The top tight ends first, do a double check for Colson Loveland, Juwan Johnson, Dalton Schultz. Those guys are going to be available in about a quarter to a third of CBS Sports leagues. Jake Tonjes is available in 83% of leagues. He's probably already rostered in a bunch of leagues that played last week, but who the hell knows? Maybe he's out there. If he ends up starting for the 49ers, I would go after him, but we don't know at this point if that's going to be the case. If he does not end up starting, if George Kittle ends up being active, then you just pivot and you go to Michael Mayer or you go to A.J. Barner, previously mentioned by Jamie. Those guys will be out there on the waiver wire. You can probably pick them up on Saturday. If we find out that George Kittle is questionable for the game and 90 minutes before kick, George Kittle's active. That means Jake Tonjes is dead, and you can go and get Mayer or Barner.
Okay. You got the Steelers situation that both tight ends were heavily involved. 10 targets combined for Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith. And now there's no Darnell Washington on top of DK Metcalf being out. And then
do you have a preference? I know who I
go
like.
Freiermuth just because more downfield. Jonnu Smith does too much near the line of scrimmage, but he'll get some carries too if that's the way
that was the deciding factor for me.
Arthur Smith will operate. And then you mentioned it, Colby Parkinson. He's still available in the leagues. The numbers I didn't have him in the column yet because I have to update it from last night. But as I think you alluded to, 11 PPR points in that game. We don't expect Devontae Adams to play again. And so that's a guy in a great matchup that you can pivot to. And the Cardinals, as we know, stink against tight ends.
Yeah, Adams is interesting. I don't know if you saw the sideline report during the game, but he's really close to coming back. Based on what he said and the way he was running pregame, I would guess he's probably going to be healthy enough to play. But it would not surprise anyone if they err on the side of caution with Devontae Adams. Okay.
Parkinson would be at best, I think, the third guy to go get, just based on if Tonjes starts and Mayer is locked in. Mayer's now played 3 games without Brock Bowers, and in 2 of those games, he's been fantastic.
Okay. Now it's time for coverage you can count on, sponsored by Nationwide. Jamie, give me a DST to stream this week.
It's the Vikings, without question. You know, the Packers are going to most likely, they haven't said this yet, but most likely rest their guys. I can't imagine that with Jacobs fighting through this knee injury, the offensive line and some of the things they've been dealing with. Zach Tom, for example, battling injuries. Jordan Love coming back from the concussion. Will he play? If he doesn't play, Malik Willis with the shoulder injury. The Vikings defense has obviously been fantastic. So I think that's the easy route to go. They have top 5 upside.
Okay. The other DSTs that you have in your column are the Ravens at Pittsburgh on Saturday and the Chargers, which is so risky because they definitely could sit some guys, but the
Chargers I need to update. I think I had that before the Herbert. I updated the Herbert stuff in the top of the column. I didn't update the DST, so that'll be updated.
Would you consider, and this goes against something that I believe in, but they've been playing well lately, would you consider the Bengals against the Browns?
Yeah, for sure.
10 or more fantasy points in 4 of their past 6 games. They're just in time for the end of the year, the Bengals defense under Al Golden turning it around.
Mm-hmm. And then the Jaguars are interesting. They're 70% rostered. They're playing very well. But now they get this matchup that stinks all of a sudden, although you did get a touchdown from the Saints DST last week. But now it's 1 pick in his last 8 games for Cam Ward. But the Jags, 70% rostered. They're not quite – they're too rostered for the column, but keep an eye on them as well. All right. That was coverage you can count on, sponsored by Nationwide. How about kickers, Jamie?
The top kickers are a lot of the same guys we talk about. Eddie Pinheiro, again, Dave said it, could be a high-scoring game there. He's just been so consistent for San Francisco. Andres Borregales taking on the Dolphins. They gave up a lot of fantasy points to the position. And Will Lutz at home against the Chargers. That should be a lot of points for Denver. So good opportunity for him anytime he's at home.
We're going to take a break. We'll talk about last night's game and just go over the waiver wire one more time for you on Fantasy Football Today.
The crowd loves champions. Gladiator 2 is an epic spectacle. Remarkable! To amuse you is my only wish.
The glory is yours, not mine.
Very good. Gladiator 2, rated R, now streaming on Paramount+.
Okay, the Falcons with a 27-24 win over the Rams. And Stafford had a bad game. Threw 3 interceptions. One of them returned for a touchdown.
Almost 2.
But no. Oh, yeah. One was, right. There was a pick 6 and there was almost 2, right? He scored 16.8 fantasy points. And
Lost
Kyron,
the MVP.
it's probably Kyron had a good game, but not great game, especially considering Blake Corum left. But he had a lot of total yards. And then Puka, I mean, one of my leagues, not my game, but was decided, I'm sure a lot, was decided on that late Puka touchdown. And he had a bad game. So by his standards. Anyway.
And almost had the most ridiculous catch you'll ever see in your life.
Oh my gosh. Would have been incredible. I'm so sad that it didn't count because that was insane. And his touchdown catch that was called back.
Yeah.
Too. That was a great catch too.
Yep.
He's just amazing.
I think we all have across the board him as the number 1 receiver next year.
Do I, or do I have Chase? Okay. And you could definitely make the case for Chase, but yeah, Puka's insane.
Well, you make the case for JSN. You can make the case for Puka. You make the case for Chase as well.
JSN's the one that is like, I can't put him ahead of those other guys because the Seahawks, I think when we go back and we look at the stats on JSN, it's going to be, he can't repeat this. I think it was too good.
Oh, but he could.
They have to throw
he's
more.
A very good receiver.
Oh, he's amazing.
Yeah.
I think
I don't think he's got the same type of upside as Puka and Chase do.
The fascinating part of this is what Sam Darnold did for Justin Jefferson last year and what he's doing for JSN this year.
Yep.
Well, I said it on the show on Sunday. He's one of 5 quarterbacks with back-to-back 13-win seasons.
I'm going to give you my biggest worry. Does Clint Kubiak get a coaching job?
Oh, he's definitely going to get
consideration. Yeah, but if he gets a job, it's a third OC in 3 years for Seattle, and I don't know if we can count on that system to be as good with somebody else. I don't know who the somebody else would be, but that's something to think about with Jackson Smith and Jigba. Still awesome. He's going to be a first-round pick, all that stuff, but really hard to make the case for him to be the 101 or the top receiver, either of those things.
He's one of, and I don't have the entire list in front of me, but he's one of a few offensive coaches that are going to get consideration, because most of the top candidates this year are the defensive guys. Because you have Shula is going to get consideration, Minter's going to get consideration, Flores is going to get consideration. Those are the top candidates that are being mentioned at least right now. And then Nagy's kind of being tied to Tennessee, which is weird, but he's not really the clear guy you worry about leaving Kansas City.
What did you guys think of Drake London and Kyle Pitts putting up duds?
I mean, Pitts, I just chalk it up to a bad game, and clearly the run game was working so well for the Falcons. London, I'm worried. I don't think you can start him in Week 18 with any confidence. He's not ranked as a top 24 receiver for me. So the fact that he had the poor game last week and then just no opportunities really this week or Week 16, Week 17. If you're still playing at this point, like, Heath has been talking about this quite a bit, comparing it to the Brock Bowers injury, same PCL sprain that it took Bowers several weeks to get back. And then as we find out, whether accurate or not, that he's not 100% to close the year, which you could probably see in some of the way that he was performing. London, give him credit for coming back. I think just the opportunity to have him was encouraging for fantasy managers. The production clearly was not. So you can't start him if you're still alive.
All right, let's go to the waiver wire and look at quarterback here. CJ Stroud is the shallow league guy that Jamie put in there. Do you like Stroud better than Shuck or Young or Cam Ward?
No, I go Shuck, Stroud, Young, Ward.
Dave?
Shuck, Stroud, Ward, Young.
Stroud, Ward. Okay, so you like Ward better than Young, but you like Shuck better than Stroud, both of you. Jamie has Young ahead of Ward. Dave has Ward ahead of Young. Okay, that's not confusing at all. And so if you're the Josh Allen manager, I think if you're the Matthew Stafford manager, you just might want to be prepared in case they have nothing to play for on Sunday and he won't play a full game. Who else? Herbert, obviously, he's not playing. They're going to play Trey Lance. Any quarterbacks? Yeah, Pat, Jordan Love, right? They got Minnesota, so at least. And are there any quarterbacks that have really tough matchups that you're trying to avoid this week that you might stream Shuck over?
I mean, Baker.
Yep.
You did Shuck over Baker? Okay.
But it's not like Baker's got a tough matchup. Baker's just not playing well.
How about Goff at Chicago? It's not a tough matchup, but it's like outdoor cold weather game.
Yeah, I would start Shuck over Goff.
I would start Goff over Shuck, especially after what the Falcons looked like last night, but that's close.
I'd like to know what the Lions' offensive line looks like.
Well, first off, if St. Brown does not play, then there's no way you're playing Goff.
Yeah, that's true too. But if Decker's out, Sewell's out, the guards don't come back, like that's an easy one to get away from Goff. That was the number one reason why he was terrible last week, was his protection was the worst it's looked in 4 years.
And the Bears are playing for the 2 seed.
And that game, by the way, just looking at the 10-day weather forecast, because you could get horrible weather in January in Chicago, doesn't seem that bad. So like a high of 31, some chance for precipitation, but that's definitely something to keep an eye on, especially since we're saying look for Colson Loveland. Luther Burden's a priority. We want to make sure there's decent conditions there. All right, so those are your quarterbacks. Again, they're Tyler Shuck, Bryce Young, and Cam Ward for Jamie. Tyler Shuck, Cam Ward, and Bryce Young for Dave. Just one more name. How do you feel about Jacoby Brissett at the Rams, who, I keep mentioning, they say they're going to play their starters, but we'll see how long. It seems like the magic might be gone a little bit with Brissett. Came through with a super late touchdown, I think against backups at Cincinnati. Really struggled the week before against Atlanta. Dave, how do you feel about Brissett this week?
I like him, but I can name 12 quarterbacks I like more.
Okay, fair enough. At running back,
still top 12 guy for me. You said it. The Rams may not be playing their guys, and they're going to probably start to pull guys at some point during the game, no matter what, because they'll probably have a lead if they are going to do that. So I think Brissett still comes through.
Are we hoping for a backdoor garbage time touchdown to help Brissett get to like 20 or 21 fantasy points? Or are we thinking that could help him get that extra touchdown to get in the neighborhood of 30 fantasy points?
I mean, if you tell me he's getting 20, that's basically the neighborhood where Shuck lives. That's where hopefully Bryce Young will get to. That's where Stroud is going to be. That's probably where Goff will be. That's probably where a lot of those other guys will be. So I think Jacoby Brissett's not a slam dunk. He's not like we must start him, but I mean, he's got one game under 20 fantasy points in 11 starts. Like, that's a pretty good track record. However, he's gotten it. And believe me, a lot of these he's gotten with some fourth quarter garbage time scenarios along the way.
Okay. And let's go to the running backs. Malik Davis gets the Giants. They've been lights out the last 2 weeks. Now, they've been better, though, against Aaron Jones and Ashton Genty, but still an amazing matchup from Malik Davis. Jamie likes Dylan Sampson and Emmanuel Wilson. Dave likes Audric Estime. And who's your third guy?
Audric Estime, and ahead of Audric Estime is Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt.
Oh,
but when I say I like these guys, these are like, I'm really stuck at running back and these guys are available and I need a plug and play for week 18. And Malik Davis is like eons better.
Yeah, man. Malik Davis, is he in the top 12?
Top 20.
Top 20. Okay. He's like this week's Ramondre, but Javante's, we're not thinking Javante will play.
Obviously that changes if Javante is healthy and they roll him out there. Okay.
Let's see if there's any other names. Jamie, we talked about Devin Singletary, I think, on early waiver wire yesterday. Any interest
Desperation
there?
Play.
All right. Wide receivers. Ooh, here's an interesting one. Ricky Pearsall. He's got 96 and 85 yards in his last 2 games. But man, Seattle is a different story.
Not for him.
Well, he was good against them.
At 100 yards in the first.
All right. Well, that was 3 months ago, basically, right? That was a long time ago.
Yeah, but that's only like 2 games ago for him because he never played.
You like him better than any of the waiver wire guys, than any of the Luther Burdens of the world?
He would be second. So Burden is 1. Pearsall would be 2. Just, again, you said it, the last 2 games, Brock Purdy's on fire right now. So I know the Seahawks defense is clearly much better than the 49ers defense. Nobody's questioning that. But you throw out defense, I think, at this point. And so they'll slow down San Francisco. They'll make things uncomfortable for San Francisco. They will not perform. Purdy will not perform at the same level that he has been the last 2 weeks because of who he's playing. But I think Kyle Shanahan's in his bag right now, and Brock Purdy's just dealing.
Okay. So Luther Burden is number 1 amongst the widely available guys. Jamie would then go Ricky Pearsall, then Parker Washington. Dave, how would you rank those 3? Burden,
exact same way. Burden 1, Pearsall 2, Washington 3.
All right. Washington has a great matchup. Tennessee's been really bad against wide receivers. Chimere Dike at Jacksonville. Jalen McMillan, who Dave likes better than DK.
Yep.
You could also look at Kyle Williams. He led the Patriots with an 86% route participation rate, which is good and bad. It's good, but also means he was playing with the backups late in the game.
Well, I mean, they're so beat up at that position.
Yeah.
He also first time for career high in targets for him.
The Dolphins might get Minkah Fitzpatrick back this week, by the way, but the Dolphins, who the Patriots play, they've allowed 100 yards or a touchdown to 7 wide receivers in their last 3 games. It's berserk. And then Trey Tucker.
5 guys in the last 2 weeks have gone for 13.5 PPR points or more.
We didn't mention Trey Tucker. Does anybody want Trey Tucker this week against the Chiefs? No?
No, sir.
How about one of the Jalens or the Jalen or Jaden on Houston?
So Higgins is interesting. He had 11.5 PPR points in the first game against Indianapolis. And I would guess that if Sauce Gardner is going to follow anybody, he's following Nico. So, I mean, you saw the big play potential for Higgins last week.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. He's a good number 3 receiver. He's not anybody I think you start with any confidence. So, like, he's closer to DK than he is the other 3 guys that we talked about, Pearsall, Washington, and Burden.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 2 more names to throw at you. Well, I guess this is 3 names in one. Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Adam Thielen, Scotty Miller, and then Brandon Cooks. Dave?
Pass.
Okay. Tight ends.
I think if you're looking at MVS, he's just another Adonai Mitchell type player. They're going to be a lot of targets. Who knows how good they'll be? Who knows how good the player will be? But, I mean, MVS got 9 targets against the Browns. Almost had a couple touchdowns.
Yeah,
that sounds like MVS.
9 targets, pretty impressive. Scotty Miller had 7. And the Ravens have been like the Dolphins. The Ravens have allowed 110 or more yards to a wide receiver in 5 straight games. Brandon Cooks, yeah, okay, you're not interested in him. So let's go to the tight ends. Let's look at these tight ends and tell me the shallow league tight ends. How much do you like them? We got Juwan Johnson at Atlanta.
Love. Yeah.
Okay. Colston Loveland against Detroit.
Also love.
Dalton Schultz against
name.
Yeah, Dalton Schultz against the Colts.
Love.
Not bad.
Brenton Strange against the Titans.
Like.
Top 12.
All right, so how would you rank them? Juwan Johnson, Colston Loveland, Dalton Schultz, Brenton Strange.
You did.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Would you take?
But there's a gap. For me, there's a gap between Johnson, Loveland to Schultz, and then a wider gap to Strange.
Schultz had a great game against the Colts the first time around, and they've been really bad against tight ends.
Yep.
And would you start Jay Tonjes over any of those guys?
All of them.
Yep.
All of them.
All of them.
Okay. But, of course, Kittle might play, so keep that in mind.
In which case, I would start Tonjes over nobody.
Would you start Michael Mayer over any of those guys?
Mayer over Strange.
Mayer over Strange, but not over Juwan Johnson or Colston Loveland or Dalton Schultz.
No.
And then there's A.J. Barner, who is coming on strong here with some touchdowns, and he had only 3 targets this week. He had 6 the week before. He had been running.
The previous 2 weeks, he had 6.
Yeah, and you know what? The thing about those 2 weeks with 6 is he had been running more routes, and it had coincided with Elijah Arroyo getting hurt. But last week, Arroyo was out, and the routes went down. But 2 of the last 3 games, the routes have been up, and the targets have been up for A.J. Barner. And San Francisco has allowed 10 touchdowns to tight ends. What's up, Chigo Conquo?
Do you happen to have the route participation rate after Rashid Shaheed got hurt?
No, but it was pretty low for the full game. It was like 60%,
yeah, sure.
I want to say.
But I wonder if it was like even lower. Like, did Seattle try and go 3 receivers?
I don't know.
And then once Shaheed got hurt, they just pivoted back to using Barner and multiple tight ends, and that could have given him the opportunity to block less, run more routes.
You know, when Rashid Shaheed got hurt, I think it was pretty early.
It was early in the game, yes.
Was it? Okay. So it probably doesn't make a difference. I can look into it if you
Barner ran 44% of the routes in the first quarter. So,
and then the next 3?
Let's see. In the second quarter, it was
just click
71%
together.
Yeah, 71% in the second, and then for the rest of the game, it was 64% total.
Okay.
For second, third, and fourth. All right. That's it. Oh, Chico Conquo, he's playing well. He's got 6 to 8 targets in 3 straight games. Plays the Jaguars, who've been better against tight ends. They had that one game where they gave up 30-something point, or like more than that, to Brock Bowers. And they've been better since then, but Okonkwo's playing well. You got Pat Freiermuth. Yeah,
15
Colby
targets in his
Parkinson.
last 2 weeks for Okonkwo.
Yeah, I think it's 21 in his last 3. 21 targets in his last 3 games.
They are doing him a service by sending him into free agency with a good resume.
You got Pat Fryermuth. Dave prefers Jonnu Smith because he'll get some carries. Jamie prefers Pat Fryermuth.
I would prefer to like not start either one of them.
Yeah, and Parkinson.
Give me all the other tight ends that we've talked about ahead of the Steelers tight ends.
One more name, Dawson Knox against the Jets.
I don't think they play their guys very much.
All right. DSTs are the Vikings and the Ravens. Kickers are Pinheiro, Will Lutz, and Andres Borregales. And I think we can all agree Ohio State beat Miami last night on CBS Sports HQ. In case you didn't see that, they got the #1 recruit in the country for 2027. That was a punch to the guts. So, Dave, we have some payback to.
Oh yeah, that's what we have payback for. Losing a recruit.
The #1 recruit. Well, he's like top 3, but arguably the #1 recruit in the country.
Gotta
and
pay more.
That happened 23 years ago.
Yeah, that's exactly what it comes down to.
Excited?
Very.
Dave will be at the game. Happy New Year.
Hopefully.
Yeah. All right. It'll
When
be
you
me. What's that?
When are you leaving?
Soon.
As someone said, is the U going to cover the 9.5 points?
I think so.
Do you know the most amount of points the Buckeyes have allowed this year?
No.
16. That is insane. No team
Really
has scored more than. How are they going to beat them? 16 points? That's amazing. But
What was the score of Texas? Your game with Texas Tech?
10-3.
10-3.
I'm sorry, Texas A&M.
Texas A&M, yeah. Super windy game. A lot of missed field goals.
10-3.
10-3.
Yeah, but it's still like, even if like some of the field goals counted or you give a team a touchdown when they settled for a field goal, I don't think either of those teams would have scored 21.
No, but the game's going to be indoors. Miami's front 4 is going to give Ohio State some problems, but I think they'll cover. I don't think they'll win, but we'll see.
That would be heartbreaking.
It's okay. It's been a good year. Ohio State's a terrific team. I hate them. We will talk to you tomorrow with our New Year's Eve extravaganza.
Well, 1 p.m. today.
Oh, that's right. 1 p.m. today. So 1 p.m. It's going to be fun. We're going to do each segment's going to be half waiver wire, and and the other half is going to be our top 5 at each position. So, join us 1 p.m. at CBS Sports Network. See you there. Later.